Hey guys. I don't know
What?
the theme. What is the
J- But go.
You're
I
you're so
can't
bad
freak
at
out.
that. No, you can't.
Today we're talking
Shh.
about what it's like.
I'm breaking up. Anyways,
Yeah.
this is
Um.
this is so bad already. Okay.
Is it ever a good start though? All right.
I mean,
So
sometimes.
today we're doing what it's like to be on the praise and worship team, because we're both on it. Me and Daniel take turns playing drums, but I occasionally also play like guitar and sing and bass sometimes, but
I'm
mainly
thinking
drums.
about joining bass and piano, though. I'm not
I
good
can
enough at
play.
both
I
of
can
them
play a little bit of
yet.
piano.
A,
I've
a
taught
little bit.
myself
I can
how
play
to
like
do.
simple songs.
I've taught myself how to do the melody on the or right hand and do the chords on the left hand, which I thought I'd never be able to
Yeah.
do with the coordination. So, anyway, what are we
So
talking?
far I can only play chords.
So before we start, I know
Anyways.
my beanie looks awful. It is the new podcast design, but the beanie was like for Kim Jong Un himself. Like it is
What?
huge. The thing is like literally like almost 2 feet long, and so it's just gonna have to sag in the back. And now I look like a nun. Ah.
Oh no.
Speaking of nuns, let's get
Oh.
back to being on the worship team. So,
Not speaking of nuns. Not speaking of nuns.
all right. So we're gonna be using this as a guideline, and it's worship. Um, it's 5 worship team killers by a man named Travis Agnew. He's a local pastor around where we live, but it's a good book. So we're gonna be using it. Gonna be using the chapters. He has 5 chapters, which are the 5 worship team killers. Um, it's pride, inconsistency, inability, detachment, and division. So these are all bad things, but we're gonna also say the opposite and how it like should function. We're probably gonna break this up into 2 because it could take a while, and I don't know what some of the words mean. So, so what you laughing about there, little drummer boy?
I'm gonna change this title.
Okay. Um, I'm the main level upper, so it can't be worse than that. But all right, we are going to be discussing that. So yeah, the first one is pride, and we're going to talk about the good and the bad and the ugly, or the Daniel. What, ugly Daniel potato? But no, I'm kidding. Um, so
Wow. Oh
pride,
no.
pride and humility.
You can't
So
have that
we're
many
gonna
characters.
start with humility. How many words? Stay focused. Humility. Humility is a key part of being on a worship um praise team, because you kind of see everybody going. You kind of, it's hard, like I know I struggle with it. I'm sure Daniel does too. Not like that he, I just assume he does because of his character, but like it's hard for anyone on a worship team to just go about like doing it without kind of like focusing on yourself, which is bad, but um so
Yeah.
yeah.
S- Um,
Yeah.
and I think pride is definitely something that all of us
No, we're
struggle
talking
with.
about, or
I
pride will
mean,
come. Pride will come eventually. We're talking about the,
before the
well,
fall.
okay. Okay, Mister, you're here too. All right, so I like how this
What?
beanie makes my mullet stick out.
You don't have a mullet.
Pretty much. If you
If you have
guys
a
want
mullet,
to,
I
by
have
the
a
way,
mullet,
quick reveal before. Oh my
and
goodness,
I
we're
don't have
never
a
gonna
mullet.
finish this. It's been like forever. It's
No,
been
we
like two
should we
months
should
since I've
just
done a pod.
restart.
No, it's too late to do that. Well,
Well,
fine.
not really.
My gorgeous locks, my flowing
No.
hair. The
Okay, we're
disapproval from
restarting.
Daniel
No,
is
so
crazy.
somebody stop this.
As I was saying, this is what it is, pulled all the way down. So, um, Yeah, so I think I'm gonna stay like this for a little bit, even though it looks weird. It doesn't sound weird, so please listen to this on Spotify and don't watch it on YouTube. It's
No,
just
why?
it helps me
Why?
it helps me stay
No, it
focused, because
doesn't.
then I can't get distracted by whatever you're lollygagging about
Okay,
over
but
there.
now I'm distracted
Anyway,
about from you looking
humility,
stupid.
humility. Oh wow, don't I already do that? You should be used to that by now. All right, so
Maybe
humility.
this is just an
Hu-
example of how to have humility.
Daniel, you were mad that we
Is
were
this like
getting off
sackcloth and
track.
ashes? Beanie that's too big?
Just stay focused. All right. So humility,
Yep,
right?
very focused.
I will take the beanie up. All right. So humility is a key aspect. No, you know what? Let's reverse it. Let's talk about the problem with it and then talk about how to solve it.
Right.
So pride is a big deal. Um, with pride, you kind of it's hard to like just look at everybody worshiping and not think that they're like looking at you. Yeah. Um.
Yeah, I
So
think. Or
now I was gonna say he makes a point like when did worship ever become about like what we got out of it? Like a lot of
right.
worship nowadays is like, especially with the big churches with like all the fancy lights and the big like um, basically concerts that they have. I mean, it's not
Mhm.
like it's necessarily bad, but like it's kind of it's just a
When it
lot of
distracts from what you're
distractions. Yeah.
actually trying to do, then it is bad. Which is that what you're actually trying to do is glorify God and
Yeah.
focus on God and prepare your heart for the message.
Hmm.
I mean, of course, there's always the end, in which case you're preparing to go out. But, anyways, main theme or main what point is to glorify God. That's literally what worship is.
Pride is a big deal because a lot of when you're like elevated over someone and you have a lot of people facing towards you, you're facing back towards them. It's usually a great like breeding ground for pride. Pride is a big deal because you never want to make worship about you. You always want it to be focused on God. Um, and when it does become focused on you, that's when you need to flip things around. You need to be changing what you're doing in order to that. Just figure out what you need to do to keep things focused on God rather than yourself. You'd never want worship to be about you, and that's that's pretty much the main theme in this book. So, yeah, you never want it to be focused on you, and so obviously the opposite of pride is humility, and humility is very big because obviously we should never come to God being prideful. There's like nothing that we can present to God that is worth bragging about, because like he's either given it to you and he's the source of it, or he has done something 20 million times better, and you really have no reason to brag then. So you want to never let pride creep in while you're trying to um, worship and when you're trying to lead worship. Pride is such a big killer. Pride is a huge deal when it comes to stuff like this. And so, yeah.
Yeah, I think something that helps me to remain humble, or at least to not get prideful, is to like also make sure that I am worshiping actively. Because if I'm also worshiping, then it leaves much less room to think, wow, look at all those people worshiping me when I'm the one worshiping. I don't know if
Yeah,
that
you
made sense.
just because this is something I do way too much, and I shouldn't be doing it as much as I do. How I don't really sing when I play drums, and sometimes sometimes I do, but like just because you're like playing an
Right.
instrument in the worship band doesn't mean you don't sing and glorify God, which is another reason. It's another thing that leads to pride because you think that, oh yeah, they're just like singing to us, so why would I have to sing too? You have to remember you are
Hmm.
still singing to the creator of the universe, the one who breathes his breath of life into you. And so you don't want to forget that. So just get into that habit of singing if you lead worship
Yeah.
or if you play any instrument.
Sometimes sometimes I don't sing just because like whatever I'm playing is very complex, and if I like try to sing or do something else, then I'll mess
Yeah.
up and that'll make everybody else lose focus.
Yeah,
But I
that's like
still but even if I'm not like actively singing, I still try to think about the words.
yeah, I mean like
But
if you have this huge drum fill coming up, maybe don't be like just raising your hand. Just stop in the don't ever stop if you're playing drums or like a key part. Like I know guitarists sometimes stop, but like don't stop if you're on drums. You're just like, yes, we all want to praise Jesus. Save it for the week that you're not playing drums. Or the
yeah.
end of the song or something when it's quiet and you don't have to play. So pride is such a
Yeah.
big deal.
It
Pride is something we could go on and on about of how it's such a big killer in worship teams. Um, and humility, how to stay humble during worship is just remember what you're doing. You're leading.
right.
Okay, I was about to. That's gonna make you sound even. It's gonna make you get prideful. Okay, you're leading the church in worshiping God, but don't think
Yeah.
that like that's something to brag about. Just know
You're
that God.
leading the church in worshiping God.
Yes, yeah. So you shouldn't be bragging, because if you are, God will strike you down. No, I'm kidding. Pulling some of that like
I mean,
Wes, that like false Wes heresy that Wes says for like half a second and then rebukes it.
and he's like,
'Cause
sorry.
if you are ungrateful, God will strike you down. No, I'm just kidding. um.
He says some of the wildest things. But
Oh my
anyways,
goodness, it's
he's
so
still good,
hot
guys.
out here.
He's not a heretic. Okay, back on topic.
I realized Wes is like one of the only people that listens to this, and he just
Oh no. Oh
um
no.
yeah. So to stay focused,
Well,
I wanted to.
yep.
I'll tell you something about that after. It has nothing to do with the podcast though, but you just want to stay focused and just remember to stay humble because know that you're worshiping God. You should never get boastful when you're going to God with anything. So, yeah. And that's going to briefly sum up pride. If I ever see
Mhm.
Pastor Travis Agnew again, I'm going to tell him we did a podcast off of his book. All right, what was the
Okay,
second one?
so
Let's see.
yeah. What?
The second one is inconsistency. That's a big one. So this is kind of
Okay.
moving off the stage, like to the behind the scenes. Like you have to show up, you have to be there. You can't be skipping, go lollygagging. You can't hit accept when you pull up to the church on Planning Center. Cameron. Um, and so
Oh
um, you wanna give them heads up. You wanna let them know if you can or cannot be there. You want to be there in practice. You don't want to be like with your mind just like what was that math problem in class today? You want to like stay focused, remember what you're doing and why you're doing it, and you don't want to constantly be that guy that they're not counting on and all of a sudden yes it's bad for you, you don't get to play anymore, but you've also like they've lost faith they've lost faith in you. And so when you're not, and that's really an offense against God too, because you're not showing up to give him your full devotion to help these people. Like if there's just a random Sunday that you don't show up and you're a key part, like I mean, if the backup acoustic guitarist doesn't make it, it's not a huge deal. But if you're like the drummer and you don't show up and you give no explanation why, or you give it last second, then it's going to be distracting to all the other people trying to worship. Because I know some people like quiet music, but some people will start like that's me. If someone's missing, like the first 3 weeks of 7th grade was when we didn't have a drummer because both drummers from the previous year, while I was in 6th grade, were both seniors and they both graduated. We had no one to fill in that spot. So pretty much for those 3 services, every single one, I'd just be looking at the drummer cage and be like, it's kind of weird, like having not having anyone there. Like it's kind of quiet. Um, like, oh, what if I could play in there? And so my mind just drifts off. And so if you're not consistent with your practice and with your showing up, then they can't count on you, and then it's obviously an offense against God because you may not know it at the time, but you are creating a distraction for the upcoming service.
Yeah. And I think a lot of what inconsistency is talking about is how sometimes people, and I say people, but I'm definitely guilty of this sometimes, they'll go up right on stage or in the crowd or wherever at church, and they'll just be, this model Christian praising God, and then, listening to the sermon, taking notes. Then when they go home or out into school the next day, then they just are a completely different person, not giving the slightest thought to glorifying God in their lives, which
Yes.
I am definitely guilty of sometimes.
Yeah, so I completely forgot that's what he meant by inconsistency. There is the physical aspect of inconsistency, like not being there, but there's also the spiritual aspect. If you're this perfect person on stage and then you go home, like I heard a quote or something, maybe I don't remember it exactly, but it was
A quote or something, maybe.
I don't remember the exact words. It was something um like what you do in your room with the door closed, like would you do that on stage or something, or like would you do that in front of
Mm-hmm.
Jesus? I don't know, something like that.
Right.
Just like
That is very helpful sometimes.
yeah, doors are sometimes the most wicked creation in all of creation. um,
Huh. Okay, so what would be the opposite of inconsistency?
so
Consistency.
inconsistency, yeah.
Are you okay?
I'm sick. I've been sick for like the past 2 weeks. It's annoying. Yeah, the opposite of inconsistency is consistency. Showing up and being there when they need you, and also doing what you do at church the same
Mm-hmm.
at home. Like it's
Yeah.
in
Everything
in
you do,
moral.
think, or
I was just
with everything you do, think, how can I glorify God in this situation?
yeah,
And
and
what
it's
would
like
Jesus do in this situation?
it's what the world would call integrity of like what
Mm-hmm.
like um totally not googling it.
What the world would call.
Yeah, it's like integrity is like doing something good when no one's watching, which for them it's just this good work. It's called integrity. Yeah, you should do it because
And then you need to
football
think
coaches
what
say it.
is good.
But then obviously there's the once again the religious spiritual side of it, how you should be the same person. I think this was it. You should be the same person behind closed doors that you are in public. I don't know, something like that.
Oh, this is the quote. Oh, well. Okay. So I think that's it. I think that's it for inconsistency
All right, the third one is
for football.
inability. So we're gonna
Okay.
do inability and then wrap up. So
Yeah,
inability
this one
is
can be confusing.
the state of being unable to do something.
Inability.
I'll let Daniel take inability because I've kind of hogged it.
Oh,
And because I have
thanks.
no
The
idea
hard
what
one.
it is.
Okay. So I believe inability, and I might need to check up on the source text, but from what I remember when we reviewed it as a band, as an entire collective band, is inability is where you either can't or won't do your best. Or, well, do a good job on stage. And,
Yeah.
well, sometimes that's just
I was gonna say it says dealing with a lack of quality in worship leading may seem like an awkward and cruel topic to discuss, but yeah, it's just like the lack of quality. Like if you're not giving your all. 'Cause
Yeah,
Chrissy,
and sometimes people are giving their all and they just can't really do it. And that's all right. It might not be the right position for you cuz it might seem, mean, but if you're not good at playing the instrument, it means you're distracting people from worship, which ultimately is not good.
yeah,
So
that
that
one
doesn't
thing.
mean you can never do it. You can still practice and try your hardest, and then later you'll be able to
I,
join,
I was
and
I was gonna say
it'll
that
be
goes
good.
back to humility. That goes back to you having to be humble enough to accept the fact that maybe you're not the best
Yeah.
person for this position. But if you're causing a distraction that could take people's attention off worshiping God and focus it on you, you should just be okay with it because in the end, it's worth it. It's
hmm
not worth creating a distraction and stopping people from worshiping God. So
Yeah. So that's the can't side of it, and the won't side of it is definitely sinful because
yeah,
you're saying, well, God isn't important enough for me to try my hardest. God isn't important enough for me to actually practice.
yeah, that was one thing I
Um,
struggled.
so
That was
yeah.
one thing I struggled with because Um, right now my dad is filling in for worship leader at our church, and
hmm
he asked me to play like a month ago. And usually when I play at our for our youth group, I just listen to the songs, which is, I mean, I don't really know
I
how to
mean,
describe it.
it
It's not
works.
really,
You're not
yeah,
distracting.
yeah. It's not like I'm not giving my all, but that works for me. But then he gave me songs and he wanted me to practice them, and the fact and I was kind of reluctant to do it, and that was kind of a sin because I should have been like, oh yeah, it's just giving in extra work, and so I ended up practicing and kind of struggled with it, so I was kind of glad I practiced. Um, Also he made me. So all right, so yeah, so if you're not giving your all, or if you maybe can do it without having to technically practice it, um, but someone asks you to practice, don't be reluctant to do it, and just because you've been doing it okay all these other times. Because I mean, yes, I feel like I kind of run out of time because I want to practice the same day that I play, but the problem is I don't really have a lot of time because that's on Wednesday. Um,
Yeah.
and so when I get home, I don't really have time to practice. I maybe could if I could squeeze it in, but sometimes I have homework. So I just listen to the song and
Just listen to the song and you can
yeah,
play it.
sometimes I listen to it, but like it's probably not the best because I still mess up sometimes even though I've already gone over them like in practice before we play. It's still best to get it down. I got this from my dad where I can just listen to stuff and
Yeah.
practice it, but like even he still like practices stuff, even though he's like one of the best
Yeah. I
musicians I
think
know.
an important line to draw is like if you can play the thing, if you can already play it, then you don't need to spend, every hour of every day practicing. If you already have it down and you can already do your best or do well enough that it's not distracting
Hmm.
and that it still is worship that God would approve of. So if you already have the song down, if you already know it and can play along with it, then you don't need to constantly just be practicing.
Hmm. Yeah.
That'll wrap it up. Well, no, I guess we need the opposite of
Oh yeah, the opposite of inability is putting in the effort. Who would have thought?
well, I was thinking it was ability,
But yeah,
but
it's
yeah.
just
So,
yeah, it's the ability to once again going back to the humility. Ooh, dropped my pen. Once again going back to the humility aspect of it of just being okay if you're not the best for this role. Okay,
mhm.
there's some things where like if someone's technically better than you, but you're not bad at it, like that's fine. Like just take turns with them. But like if someone's like can just do it without messing up and you kind of struggle with it, like with drums, if you have struggle with like moving all different limbs at different times, then maybe let someone else do it. Just you can try again. I think one of the
Hmm.
easiest things to do if you feel like you have a good singing voice is sing, but I know that's hard for everyone. So either find another instrument to play or just keep practicing to that same instrument until you feel confident
Right.
enough. They're hopefully they're not going to deny you the chance to play. Um if they're thinking of you and they like to and they if they want to be nice, uh, okay, hold on. Yeah, if they're thinking of you and they want everyone to be able to participate, they'll put you on a schedule rotating with someone if they already have someone. So that's the that's the you contributing towards it, and then the actual ability is just once again wanting to do it. And you want to go into that?
Yeah. So I think wanting to do it or putting the effort in can
Yeah.
solve both the can't and won't. Because even if you can't do it, if you put the effort in, then eventually you will be able to play it. I mean, it might be a lot harder for you to learn the instrument, whatever it is, or vocals, than other people, but you'll still, if you try hard enough, you'll be able to play the instrument. So, and then for the won't, if you just realize your place, you humble yourself, you realize you need to get better or you need to practice more, then you will. And, well, since I guess for the won't scenario, you already can play as well as you need to. Um, but putting in the effort to practice to do the best that you can.
Mhm. So I think that's gonna wrap it up. I'm not sure how long this is gonna be with having to cut out all the random stuff and spaces. Hopefully it'll be at least 15 minutes. Um,
Yeah,
yeah,
I
but
think
that's
so.
gonna be it. Thank you for listening to the Level Up podcast, and let me know if you prefer this or the name Micah manages it. Which
Micah
I heard,
manages it. Well, because then it goes with all the other themes.
yeah, but I
Micah
feel
makes
like
it, Micah
I prefer
masters
to
it,
have
Micah
something like
manages it.
I prefer to have. What if I don't want to stick with that theme, Daniel? What if I want to break out of my cocoon of previous names and
Okay, well,
spread my
if
wings
we
of the
change this
Level
to
Up
level up, then you
podcast?
need to change the gaming channel to something else also.
I may change it in the future. Micah Masters, it was just for now. Um, yeah, so that's gonna be it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in. If you tune in, you most likely have an interest in this. So if you do have an interest in worship music, you can. I don't know. I turned comments like my comments are on my channel. I'm not sure why some videos are still disabled. Community posts, I think almost all of them have comments enabled. So if you have questions for us, you can go there, or you can go to the description of my channel. I have my email there. If you ever want to ask questions or stuff, or if you want to ask Daniel a question, you can email me and I can forward it to him. So yeah, I doubt we'll have anybody do that though, because 99% of my fans are people that I know. So
Well,
bye.
yeah, I guess.